The stars had always been there. They were like old friends, waiting above every night. No matter what happened in the world, no matter how many years passed, people could always look up and find them. That was why the change was so strange. It began on an ordinary evening in a small town near the mountains. Mira was walking home from the observatory where she worked as an assistant. She liked to stop at the edge of the hill before going home and look at the night sky. But that night, when she raised her eyes, she stopped walking. The sky was dark. Not just dark because of clouds, not dark because of rain. It was a deep, endless black, without even the faintest glow of a single star. She thought maybe her eyes were tired, so she rubbed them and looked again. Still nothing. No moon. No planets. No stars. Her phone began to ring. It was her friend Tomas, who worked at the town library. Double quotes Mira. Are you outside? Look at the sky. Something's wrong. I'm looking, she said, feeling her voice shake. I don't see anything. Nothing at all. Not just here, Tomas said. It's everywhere. People in the city are saying the same thing. No stars anywhere. That night, people all over the world came outside to look. In the streets, on rooftops, in open fields. They stood together and stared upward. Everyone saw the same thing. Blank sky, as if someone had painted it with the darkest color they could find. In the days that followed, scientists filled the news channels. They said the strange darkness could not be explained by natural causes. The moon was still there, but hidden. The sun still rose in the morning, but every night was now empty. Telescopes showed only blackness. No matter how powerful they were, no matter where they were pointed, nothing appeared. Even satellites sent beyond Earth could see nothing but darkness once they turned away from the sun. At first, people hoped it was temporary. But after 2 weeks, hope began to fade. The absence of stars was not just a mystery, it was starting to change the way people felt. Many had trouble sleeping. Without the familiar patterns of light above them, sailors who used the stars to guide them now had to rely on new tools. Artists said the nights felt lonely. Mira noticed something else. Every night, as soon as the sun disappeared, she could hear a faint humming sound. At first, she thought it was coming from the observatory machines. But when she stepped outside, away from all equipment, she could still hear it. It was soft, low, and constant, almost like the sound of a distant engine, but it never grew louder or weaker. No one in her town seemed to notice it, but when she mentioned it to Rian, the old scientist who had once worked at the National Research Center, he looked at her with interest. You hear it too, he said quietly. You hear it? She asked. Yes, he replied. I've heard it every night since the stars vanished. It is not natural. It is part of whatever is hiding them. Mira had always respected Rian. He was older now, with gray hair and slow movements, but he had once been one of the country's top astronomers. Years ago, he had left the research center suddenly. No one knew why. What do you think is causing it? She asked. Rian looked up at the dark sky for a long time before speaking. It's a barrier, something between us and the rest of the universe. Someone put it there. Mira's skin prickled. Someone? You mean people? Not people from here, he said. But not from far away either. I can't explain fully now, but I have seen something like this before. Long ago, when I still worked for the center, I read files about an event called the Great Seal. It was classified. They said it was only a theory, but I believed it was real. A shield to keep Earth separate from the stars. Mira's thoughts spun. Why would anyone do that? That, Rian said, is the question we were never allowed to ask. That night, she could not sleep. The humming seemed louder now. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of power could block the entire universe from view. The next morning, she returned to Rian's home. He lived in a small wooden house near the edge of town, surrounded by stacks of old books and dusty star charts. I want to know more, she said as soon as he opened the door. He led her inside without a word and pulled out a large metal box. From under his desk, inside were dozens of faded papers, photographs, and diagrams. One paper caught her attention immediately. At the top, in large letters, were the words, Project Zeus. "What is this?" she asked. Rian sat down slowly. Project Zeus was started 50 years ago. It was meant to be Earth's answer to the Great Seal, a way to connect human minds into a single thought strong enough to reach beyond any wall. It was not a weapon, not in the way people think. It was more like an awakening. Mira looked over the blueprint. It showed a strange network with lines connecting every continent. At the center was a large circle marked core. "Why wasn't it finished?" she asked. "Because the seal arrived before we could complete it," Rian said. "When the sky went dark 50 years ago for a single night, we knew it was coming. The project was shut down. The public was told it was a failed energy experiment. Only a few of us knew the truth. And now," Mira asked, "now," Rian said, leaning forward, "we might need it. The seal is back, and stronger than before. But Project Zeus can still work if we can gather the keys." "Keys," she repeated. 7 devices. He explained, "Each one holds a part of the connection pattern. Without all of them, Zeus cannot awaken. I know where the first one is, but it will not be easy to get the rest." Mira felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. She had never been part of anything so important. "What happens if we do it?" she asked. "If we awaken Zeus," Rian said softly, "we will speak to the stars again. And whoever built the seal will have to answer us." Mira looked out the window at the empty sky. Somewhere beyond that blackness, the stars were still there, waiting. She did not know if she was ready, but she knew she could not turn away now. The night was coming again, and with it, the hum would return. But this time, she would listen more carefully. Maybe, just maybe, it was not just noise. Maybe it was the first sign that the stars could hear them too. The next morning, Mira returned to the observatory as usual, but her mind was far from her daily tasks. She kept thinking about the blueprint Rian had shown her. The bold letters, Project Zeus, seemed to echo in her thoughts every time she glanced at the sky. She imagined the invisible wall that Rian had described, the great seal hanging above the planet, like a silent guard. When her shift ended, she walked back to Rian's home. The old scientist was in his small study, surrounded by open books and piles of papers. The air smelled faintly of dust and coffee. "You came back," he said without surprise. "I want to know what to do next," Mira replied. Rian nodded. "Good. But before we begin, you need to understand what Zeus really is. People imagine technology as machines, wires, and metal. Zeus is different. It is alive in a way. Not alive like a person, but alive like an idea that grows." He picked up a small metal disc from his desk. It was smooth, with faint patterns etched into its surface. "This is one of the keys," he said. "Not the first one we need, but one I managed to recover years ago. It holds a piece of the pattern that Zeus needs to wake." Mira studied the disc. The patterns looked like tiny rivers, winding and branching. "How many of these are left?" she asked. 7 in total, Rian said, scattered all over Earth. Each one hidden in a place where people would not think to look. "The first key we need is in the desert, beneath an old observatory that was closed more than 30 years ago." "Why there?" "Because that was one of the places where Project Zeus was tested," Rian explained. "The seal's builders must have thought no one would return, and for a long time, no one did." Mira hesitated. "So we just go and take it?" "It will not be that simple," Rian said. "The key is hidden behind layers of locks, and we may not be the only ones searching now that the seal is active again." Mira's thoughts turned to Tomas. He worked at the library, but knew more about old records than anyone she had ever met. He might be able to help. That evening, she met Tomas in a quiet corner of the library when she told him about the seal, Project Zeus, and the keys. His eyes widened. "I've seen the name Zeus before," he said. "In an old atlas. It was hidden inside the map collection, like someone had slipped it in without permission. The pages were filled with strange coordinates. Maybe they're connected to the locations of the keys." Mira leaned forward. "Do you still have that atlas?" "Yes," Tomas said. "It's in the restricted section. We can look at it after closing." That night, when the library was empty, Tomas brought the atlas to a large wooden table. The pages were yellow and fragile, with faint writing in the corners. Some of the coordinates matched the places Rion had mentioned in his old notes. This one, Tomas said, pointing to a set of numbers, is in the southern desert. That could be the observatory Rion talked about. They copied the coordinates and returned to Rion's house. When Rion saw them, he gave a rare smile. "Good work," he said. "The first key is waiting. But before we leave, there is something you must know. Each key does more than store a pattern. It hums." "Hums?" Mira asked. "Yes," Rion said. "Just like the sound you have been hearing in the night. The hum grows stronger when a key is near. That is how you will know we are close." They began planning the journey. The desert was far, and travel would take days. Mira had never been beyond her region, but she felt no fear, only a pull, as if the sky itself wanted her to go. 2 days later, they set out. Tomas came with them, carrying the atlas and several maps. Rion carried the old metal disc. Saying it might help guide them, they traveled by train, then by a slow bus that wound through dry hills and empty plains. On the third day, the land opened into the desert. It was a sea of pale sand and red stone, stretching in every direction. The air shimmered with heat, and the wind carried a dry, sharp scent dot by sunset. They reached the ruins of the observatory. The building stood alone on a low hill, its dome half collapsed and its walls cracked by years of storms. Inside, the air was still and cool. Dust lay thick on the floor. "This place has been asleep for a long time," Tomas whispered. Rion looked around slowly, as if greeting an old friend. "The key is below. There should be a hatch in the floor." They searched until Mira found it, a square of metal set into the ground. Hidden under broken boards, it opened with a rusty groan, revealing a narrow stairway leading into darkness. As they descended, Mira felt a faint vibration in the air. It was the hum, soft, steady, almost like the pulse of a heartbeat. At the bottom was a small chamber lit by the last light of day slipping through cracks above. In the center stood a glass case. Inside it was a crystal-like object, about the size of a hand, glowing faintly. Mira stepped closer. The hum grew stronger. She reached out, and the crystal seemed to respond, its glow deepening. "This is it," Rion said quietly, "the first key." When Mira lifted it from the case, the hum filled the entire room. For a moment, she thought she could hear something. Inside the sound, a whisper, almost a faint to catch. "What was that?" she asked. Rion shook his head. "We will understand more when we find the others." As they climbed back into the open air, the stars were still absent, but the sky seemed slightly less empty. Mira did not know if it was her imagination or something more. They camped near the ruins that night. Round the small fire, Tomas asked, "Where's the next key?" Rion's eyes were fixed on the dark horizon. "Far to the north," he said, "in a place where the air is colder than ice and the ground never thaws. If we find it, Zeus will be closer to waking." The hum of the first key lingered in the air, soft but steady. Mira lay awake, listening, wondering if the stars could feel them searching. The desert heat was far behind them now. For 3 days, Mira, Rion, and Tomas traveled north by train and ship, following the coordinates from Tomas's atlas. The land turned from dry plains to green forests, then to wide stretches of white snow. The second key, according to Rion, was hidden deep within a polar research station that had been abandoned for decades. The building was said to be frozen into the ice itself, sealed by time and storms. They arrived in a small coastal town, where the air smelled of salt and the wind was sharp with cold. From there, a single road led to the station. They borrowed an old track vehicle from a local mechanic who had heard of Rion's name before. "People say the station is haunted," the mechanic told them with a small smile. "I don't believe that, but no one who goes there stays long." The air feels heavy as they drove. The sky remained the same, empty black at night. Mira felt the hum of the first key in her pack, steady and patient, like a heart that never tired. She wondered if the second key would hum the same way, or if it would sound different. Hours later, The shape of the station appeared on the horizon, a cluster of low buildings connected by narrow corridors. The walls were coated with ice, and the doors hung crooked in their frames inside. The air was still, and their breath made faint clouds. The walls creaked as the wind pushed against them. "The key is not in plain sight," Rian said, leading them toward the far end of the station. "It will be hidden beneath layers of protection." Just like the first one, they searched through rooms filled with old equipment and frozen papers. Most of the machines were covered in frost, their dials locked in place. In one room, Tomas found a metal hatch on the floor, but it was sealed shut. "This must be it," Tomas said. Together, they cleared the ice around the edges, then used a metal rod to pry it open. A cold breath of air rose from below, and with it came a faint sound, a low, slow hum, deeper than the hum of the first key. They climbed down a short ladder into a small underground room. In the center was a block of ice, perfectly clear, with something trapped inside. "It's beautiful," Mira whispered. Inside the ice was a smooth sphere, pale blue, with faint light swirling under its surface. The hum was stronger now, steady and calm, like the sound of a slow river. "How do we take it out without breaking it?" she asked. Rian took a small heating device from his bag. "Slowly, the key will respond to warmth, but it must not be shocked. It remembers the conditions it was placed in." For an hour they worked, melting the ice little by little. Mira watched as the sphere slowly became free, its light pulsing gently in the dim room. When she finally lifted it from the ice, the hum joined the sound of the first key, as if the two were speaking to each other. Back in the station's main hall, they set the first and second keys side by side. A faint connection shimmered between them, almost like threads of light. "They know each other," Tomas said in wonder. "They are part of the same whole," Rian replied. "The more we gather, the stronger the pattern will grow, and when the seventh is placed with the rest, Zeus will awaken fully." That night, they stayed at the station. The hum from the two keys filled the air, quiet but ever-present. Mira dreamed of walking through a sky filled with light, not just stars, but shapes and paths she had never seen before. The next morning, they packed their supplies and left the frozen station behind. As they traveled south again, Rian spoke about the third key. "It lies under the sea," he said, "on an ocean platform that was once used to study deep currents. It was shut down after a storm, but the key remains hidden at its lower levels." Mira imagined the endless water around and above them as they searched. "Will the hum work under the ocean?" she asked. "It will work anywhere," Rian said. "The hum is not sound in the normal sense. It is a signal moving through every part of the earth." They reached a port city where ships moved slowly through gray water. An old captain agreed to take them to the abandoned platform. The platform stood like a tall shadow in the mist, its metal legs disappearing into the sea. As they climbed up, the wind whistled through the railings. Inside, the rooms were silent, except for the sound of waves hitting the steel walls. The floor was damp, and the smell of salt was strong. Following the hum, they descended through narrow stairs into the lowest part of the structure. There, behind a rusted door, they found the third key. It was unlike the others, shaped like a flat stone, dark with lines of silver running through it. Its hum was quick and light, like the sound of a bird's wings in flight. When they placed it with the first two keys, the threads of light between them grew brighter. The pattern was beginning to take form. "3 keys, Tomas said. "We're almost halfway." "Almost," Rian agreed, "but the hardest places are still ahead." The fourth key, he explained, was in a high mountain monastery, where it had been kept as a sacred object for centuries. The people there did not know what it truly was. Convincing them to let it go would require care and patience. Before they could plan the trip, something happened. That night, as Mira held the third key, the hum changed. It rose higher, then stopped for a moment. In the silence, she heard a voice. It was not loud, but it was clear. "Stop. You are not ready." Mira froze. "Rian," she called softly. "Did you hear that?" He looked at her sharply. "The seal has noticed us. The one who watches is speaking to you." "Who is it?" she asked. "I do not know its name," Rian said. but it is the mind behind the barrier, the watcher. The voice did not speak again that night, but Mira could still feel its presence. Like a shadow at the edge of her thoughts, she lay awake, listening to the hum of the three keys. The stars were still hidden, but the connection between the keys felt like a faint light, slowly growing stronger. They had 3 pieces of the pattern now, 4 remained. And somewhere beyond the seal, something was watching every step they took. The morning after the voice spoke to Mira, the air felt different. The sky was still as deep, empty black, but she had the strange feeling that the darkness was no longer silent. It felt aware, as if something behind it was listening to their every breath. They sat in the small cabin of the ship that had brought them back from the ocean platform. The 3 keys lay on the table between them, their hums blending into a soft, steady tone. Mira kept glancing at them, half expecting the voice to return. "It spoke to me," she said quietly. Rian nodded. "The Watcher rarely speaks. It means we are being noticed. The seal was not made only to block the stars. It was made to judge us." "Judge us?" Tomas asked. "Yes," Rian said. "Whoever built it believes they can decide when humanity is ready to return to the stars. They think we must earn that right." Mira thought about the words she had heard stop. "You are not ready." They had not been angry, only firm. Like a teacher closing a book. "What happens if we don't stop?" she asked. Rian's eyes were calm. "Then we show them that their judgment is wrong." The next destination was the mountain monastery where the 4th key was kept, according to Rian. The key had been placed there centuries ago, long before the seal first appeared. It had become a sacred relic to the people who lived there. They would not simply hand it over to strangers. They traveled by train through green valleys, then by a narrow road that wound upward into the mountains. As they climbed, the air grew thinner and cooler. Snow clung to the peaks, and streams of clear water ran beside the road. By the 2nd day, they reached the monastery. It stood on a high cliff, its white walls and red roofs bright against the stone. A line of colorful flags fluttered in the wind. The head monk greeted them at the gates. His name was Master Nyan, and his face was calm, with deep lines from years of living in the thin mountain air. "We welcome all who travel in peace," he said. "What brings you here?" Rian spoke carefully. "We are searching for an old object that has been in your care for many years. A smooth stone with silver lines. It is important to our work." Master Nyan's expression did not change. "You speak of the sky stone. It has been here for generations. We guard it not for ourselves, but for the world. We need to use it," Rian said. "It is part of something larger, something that can change what has been done to the sky." The monk studied them for a long moment. "The stars are hidden. We have seen this. But the sky stone cannot leave unless its purpose is proven to be good. Many come asking for it, but few understand its true weight." They were given a room in the monastery while Master Nyan considered their request. Days passed. They joined the monks in their daily routines, helping in the gardens, carrying water, walking the long paths carved into the mountain. Each night, Mira felt the hum of the 3 keys in her pack. But here, in the thin mountain air, the hum seemed softer, almost shy. On the 4th night, the voice returned. "You searched for the 4th, the Watcher said in her mind. "You think it will help you, but each key binds you tighter to what waits beyond the seal." Mira kept her voice steady, though she spoke only in thought. "We only want the stars back." "The stars are not gone," the Watcher replied. "They are only hidden from you. The danger is not in their light, but in what follows it." "What do you mean?" she asked. There was no answer. The presence faded, leaving only the quiet hum of the keys. The next morning, Master Nyan called them to the main hall. In the center stood a carved wooden box. "You may see the sky stone," he said, "but before we give it, you must understand something. Objects like this are not only tools, they hold memories. If you carry it, you carry all that has been connected to it." Rian nodded. "We accept that." Master Nyan opened the box. Inside lay the 4th key, an oval-shaped stone with bright silver lines that glowed faintly in the dim light. When Mira stepped closer, she felt its hum immediately. It was warm, steady, and filled with a kind of patience that reminded her of the mountain itself. She reached out, but paused. May I? The monk gave a slow nod as her fingers closed around the key. The hum joined the others, and the air seemed to shift. The light threads between the keys grew thicker, almost forming shapes in the air. Master Nine watched silently. The stone knows you now. Guard it well. That night, they placed all 4 keys on the low table in their room. The pattern between them was no longer just threads, it was becoming a web, with faint ripples that pulsed outward. Halfway, Tomas said softly, "Yes," Rian said, though his eyes were thoughtful. "But the Watcher is speaking more. That means the seal is feeling pressure. And when something feels pressure, it reacts." The next morning, they left the monastery, taking the narrow road back down the mountain. The air grew warmer as they descended, but Mira kept glancing at the sky. It felt heavier now, as if the seal was pressing closer. That evening, as they rested in a small village, the hum of the keys changed again. This time, it was not the Watcher who spoke. Instead, Mira saw an image in her mind, a great circle of light beyond the seal, spinning slowly, surrounded by shapes she could not name. It lasted only a second, then faded. She turned to Rian. "I think the keys are showing us something." He looked at her seriously. "Then Zeus is beginning to wake." Mira knew the next step would be harder. 4 keys were in their hands. 3 remained somewhere in the world. And the seal was no longer silent, it was watching, questioning, and perhaps preparing to act. But she also knew one thing. No matter what waited beyond the seal, they could not turn back now. The road ahead grew darker, though the sun still shone. After leaving the mountain monastery, Mira, Rian, and Tomas knew the next 3 keys would be harder to find. The places were remote, dangerous, or protected by secrets older than anyone alive. The 5th key was said to be hidden inside an ancient city buried beneath a jungle. The city was covered by thick vines and towering trees. Only a few people dared to enter, and fewer returned with stories as they approached the jungle's edge. Mira felt a mix of excitement and worry. The hum of the 4 keys grew louder, guiding them forward like a gentle pulse. "Are you ready?" Rian asked. Mira nodded. "We have come this far. We must keep going." They moved carefully through the jungle. The air was thick with humidity and the smell of earth. Strange calls echoed between the trees. Their path was often blocked by fallen branches or tangled roots. After hours, they reached the ruins of the ancient city. Stone pillars, carved with symbols, rose from the ground. Broken walls lay scattered like forgotten memories. "This place feels old," Tomas said. "Older than any history book." They followed the atlas's coordinates to a large stone temple in the center of the city. Its entrance was covered by a heavy stone door carved with strange shapes. Rian examined the door. "The key is behind here, but it is sealed by traps and puzzles." They worked together, solving riddles hidden in the carvings and avoiding traps. That tested their courage and skill. The hum of the keys seemed to grow stronger as they moved deeper inside. Finally, they reached a chamber with a pedestal. On it rested the 5th key, a smooth, golden disc etched with tiny stars. Its hum was bright and quick, like the flicker of sunlight through leaves. Mira lifted the disc carefully. The chamber filled with light, and for a moment, she saw visions ancient. Peoples watching the stars, building their city with hope and wonder. "We carry their dreams." Mira whispered. Back outside, the jungle seemed less wild, as if it recognized their purpose. Next, the 6th key awaited in a desert cave, far from any city or road. The map showed it hidden beneath layers of rock and sand, protected by nature itself. The journey was long and hard. The desert sun burned bright during the day, and the cold bit at their skin during the night, yet the keys hummed steadily, guiding them onward. In the cave, shadows danced as they lit their torches. The air was dry and still. The walls were covered with ancient paintings of stars and gods. At the cave's heart lay the 6th key, a crystal shaped like a flame, glowing softly with blue light. When Mira held it, the hum blended with the others, creating a warm harmony. "This key feels alive," Tomas said. "It holds the fire of knowledge," Rian added. Their final destination was the 7th key, the one that would complete the pattern and awakened Zeus. It was hidden deep beneath a frozen lake, locked inside a vault built by forgotten hands. To reach it, they had to cross the ice and solve the last puzzle guarding the vault's door. The cold bit harder than anything Mira had felt before, but her resolve did not weaken. Underneath the ice, in a hidden chamber, the seventh key waited, a sphere of light, glowing with colors Mira had never seen. When she took it in her hands, the hum from all 7 keys rose to a powerful chorus. The threads of light between them pulsed and grew, forming a network that spread through the air like lightning. "We have it," Mira said, her voice filled with awe. Rian looked at the keys, then at the sky. "Zeus is waking." Suddenly, the sky shifted. The invisible seal above Earth began to tremble. Mira felt a rush of energy around her, warm and alive. The stars started to return, tiny points of light flickering into existence. But with the light came a new presence, a guardian, stronger than the Watcher, ready to test if humanity was truly ready to join the stars again. The moment the 7th key joined the others, a strange energy filled the air. The threads of light between the keys grew bright, weaving together like a web made of stars. Mira could feel it humming deep inside her, stronger than anything she had known before. Outside, the sky began to change. Tiny points of light appeared one by one, like stars returning after a long sleep. The darkness that had hidden them for so long started to fade. But this was only the beginning. Rian watched the sky carefully. The seal is weakening. The barrier is breaking. Tomas looked at Mira. "Do you feel that?" "Yes," Mira said, her heart racing. "It feels like power, something alive." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled gently. The air shimmered, and the hum of the keys rose to a mighty chorus from the threads of light. A form began to appear, shifting and glowing, like lightning wrapped in clouds. "It is Zeus," Rian whispered, "the guardian they built to protect the stars." The figure grew taller and brighter. Its eyes shone like the sun, and its voice echoed in their minds without words. "Why have you awakened me?" Mira stepped forward, holding the keys tightly. "We want to see the stars again. We want to connect with the universe." Zeus's voice was calm but strong. "You have carried the keys through trials. You have proven your courage and your heart. But the stars are not gifts to be taken lightly." Rian bowed his head. "We understand. We are ready to face whatever tests you give us." Zeus's light pulsed like a heartbeat. "Then prepare yourselves. Your final trial begins now." The air grew thick as if time itself was slowing. The 7 keys lifted from Mira's hands, spinning in the air and shining with brilliant colors. Suddenly, the space around them changed. They were no longer on Earth, but in a place of pure light and shadow, where stars floated like glowing orbs. "This is the realm of the seal," Rian said quietly. "The place between worlds." Zeus appeared beside them, a guardian of immense power. "Here, you will face the truth of your desire." Mira looked at the stars around them. Each one held a memory, a dream, or a warning. "Your test is simple," Zeus said. "Show me why Earth should be free to reach the stars again." One by one, they spoke. Tomas told of the hope they carried, the need to learn and grow beyond their small world. Rian spoke of wisdom, of balance and responsibility. Mira spoke of dreams, the dreams of all who had ever looked up at the sky and wished to know what was beyond. Zeus listened silently. Then the light around them pulsed again, and a challenge appeared, a vision of Earth's past, present, and future. They saw moments of kindness and cruelty, creation and destruction. The choices of humanity were laid bare like open books. Zeus's voice was clear. "The stars will not be free to all. Only those who prove their care for life, their respect for others, and their desire for peace will cross the seal." Mira looked at her friends and then at the shining keys. "We must show that we are ready, not just in words, but in action." Zeus nodded. "Your journey is not over. You will carry this message back to Earth. Prepare your world. Only then will the seal open fully." With that, the realm of light faded, and they found themselves back where they began. The keys rested quietly in Mira's hands. Outside, the stars shone brighter than before. The seal had cracked, but it was not broken. Rian smiled. We have the chance to change everything. Mira looked up at the sky, feeling hope like a fire inside her. Then let's make sure we are ready. The path ahead was still long, but for the first time in many years, Earth was not alone in the darkness. The stars were waking, and so were they. The sky was no longer just dark. Stars twinkled bright and clear. People all over Earth noticed. For the first time in generations, the night sky was full of light. But the light brought new questions. What did it mean? How had the stars returned? Mira, Rion, and Tomas stood on a hill overlooking a city. The 7 keys were safe in a small box. Glowing softly, they had returned from their journey through the seal's realm. We have done what was needed, Mira said. But now, the real work begins. Rion nodded. Zeus gave us a message. The stars will only open fully if humanity proves it can. Care for life, for each other, and for the universe. Tomas smiled. That means everyone must change, not just a few. Word spread quickly. People talked about the stars and the keys. Some believed it was a miracle. Others feared what it might mean. Leaders and scientists gathered to understand the keys and the power they held. The world watched as Mira and her friends shared their story of the seal, the Watcher, and Zeus. The message was clear. Earth had been locked away for a reason. It was not punishment but protection. And now, the time had come to prove they were ready. Communities everywhere began to work together. People planted trees, cleaned rivers, and helped neighbors. Children learned about the stars and the universe. The keys became symbols of hope, reminding everyone of the responsibility that came with reaching for the stars. One evening, Mira looked up at the sky. A new star twinkled brighter than the rest. It was as if Zeus was watching, waiting for Earth to be ready. We have a chance to build a better future, she said softly. Rion smiled beside her. The journey never ends, but this is a new dawn, Tomas added, and it starts with us, together. They knew the stars were no longer out of reach. Earth had awakened. Zeus had been more than a guardian. It was a guide, a reminder that the greatest power was not in the keys, but in the hearts of those who held them. And so, under the light of the stars, humanity began to dream again.